On local government elections and pensions to order. Matt, would you please call the roll?
Senators Black.
Here.
Henderson.
Here.
Beck. Here. Bratton. Berger. Crawford. Here. Nicola.
Here.
Nurrenbern.
Okay, we do have a quorum, and all of you were forewarned. I move we go into executive session. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Aye. We are in executive session. I think I spoke to you in the order you originally seen. I'm going to flip that. We're going to go to 530 first. I move to bring up Senate Bill 530. Do I have a second? Second. Is there any discussion about 530? It was the bill. Senator Crawford is here to explain more if you need to, but the one dealing with circuit clerks. Anybody have any questions? Seeing none, I move that we do pass Senate Bill 530. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Matt, would you please call the roll?
Senators Black.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Beck.
Aye.
Bratton. Berger. Crawford. Nicola.
Aye.
Nurrenbern.
By your vote of 6-0, you have do pass Senate Bill 530. Now we're going to move to 532, folks. I move to bring up House Bill 532. What did I say? 532? Yeah, that daggone dyslexia gets in the way, doesn't it? I move to bring up House Bill 352. Do I have a second? I have a second. In quick discussion, seeing none, I move that we had... Senator Crawford.
Actually, I just want to make a comment. The underlying bill is this financial statement that we've been trying to get passed for literally 12 or 15 years, and we got hung up in court because the bill was titled Political Subdivisions, and it had about 50 provisions on it, and I hope we're not headed down that same path. I'm supportive, of, obviously, of the bill and the things that are in the bill, but the political subdivision title makes me a little queasy just because of what is probably going to happen on the floor when we get out there. But I am supportive of the bill.
Well, Senator Crawford will work real hard to keep it at this level with that. Remind me, is this language, I want to say it's on a couple other places, or am I really thinking about something else?
The underlying bill is Senate Bill 2, which we've already passed out of here, and actually I have a hearing on it tonight in the House, so it's just getting ready to go through that process over there. And I don't remember if the House, I think the House may have put it some other places. I don't believe I have put it anywhere else over here yet.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay. I move that we adopt Senate Committee Substitute for House Bill 352. Do I have a second? I have a second. Is there any further discussion? I know Matt put something out in front of you, and that's the reason why we went ahead and voted on 530, so everybody would remember it. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Then that passes. I'm ready to do the do pass motion. Any further discussion? I move that we do pass Senate Committee Substitute for House Bill 352. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Matt, would you please call the roll?
Senators Black.
Aye.
Henderson. Aye. Beck. Aye. Bratton. Berger. Crawford. Aye. Nicola.
No.
Nurrenbern.
By your vote of 5-1, you have do pass Senate Committee Substitute for House Bill 352. I move that we leave executive session, return to open session. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, same sign. We're out of executive session. I think Matt did contact everybody and let you know that we're going to go to Senate Bill 710 and 713 first. So Senators Gregory and Nurrenbern, please begin when you are ready. And I will probably ask one of you at least to give up a seat when we start going through of having others testify.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, I am Senator Maggie Nurrenbern, representing the great people of Clay County. And presenting today with me is my colleague who said, I don't really want to talk.
I think the exact words are, I'd let her do most of the talking. For the record, State Senator Curtis Gregory. I've got the other, I guess, 1/3 or so of Clay County, so represent a lot of great people up there, and my bill number is, I think, 2 after hers. Kind of messed up on the timing of getting filed, so I'm 713.
And I have 710. So interestingly enough, we have the great privilege of representing Clay County together. And one of our first conversations after we were both elected is ensuring that we work together to do great things for the Northland. And today, Senate Bill 710 and Senate Bill 713 are just that. They are relatively simple bills. They would establish a sports authority in Clay County, with the structure of the sports authority being modeled after the one in Jackson County. The selection of commissioners is local control with state oversight, with the local county commission submitting a panel of names to the governor to select from, and the Senate confirming the members. This bill allows for an appropriation for up to $3 million to fund for the sports authority, but by no means is it required. As we all are well aware, our beloved Chiefs and Royals are looking for their future home. And I think all of us would agree that we would like to see these teams stay in the great state of Missouri. These bills are simply about ensuring that we have the tools in the toolbox. If the teams choose to come to Clay County, we will have this language in place. This has never been about pitting Jackson against Clay County. This is making sure that the teams have all the options on the table to find a spot that will work well for them. The relocation of the Chiefs and the Royals is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for Missouri. We need to ensure we are ready to work with the sports teams so we do not lose them to another state entirely.
For me, part of the precipice, I was happy when the great senator to my left brought this with me to help file also. Many times through the campaign season, you get asked lots of questions, and you sit back and wonder, how can I fulfill something that I've been asked on the campaign trail? And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, when I was knocking doors, not just in Clay County, but kind of across the entire district, a recurring conversation, amongst other things, but the one that was very evident was, what are you going to do to help keep the Chiefs and the Royals here? And when I said, my reply back to him was, what do you want us to do? And it was a smorgasbord of answers, but it was, we want you to do something. And so I was very happy to see this come across, because now I can say I'm fulfilling something that was asked of me on the campaign trail to keep our teams here in the state of Missouri. As the senator said, this is a generational opportunity. I'll beg to differ to a certain point and say I think this is like multi-generational, because they've been at the current location since the 1960s, well before I was born. And if it goes to another state, we're looking at easily another 50, 60, 70 years before we got a shot to get them back. So even without this language, or with them not, if they do not choose Clay County, having this language in place would still prime the Clay County area for convention centers and other great economic development opportunities. So that's why we have filed this together. The state of Kansas, to me, is, as any good Mizzou person knows, tough to see things go over there when we could have kept them here. So with that, we'll be happy to take any questions.
Is there any question of either of the senators from our committee? I don't see any. At this point, maybe somebody behind you will cause us to ask questions. How many people do I have testify in favor of these two Senate bills? How many people in opposition? Okay, you guys pick who's first. Please come up. State your name. There's a witness form. And begin when you're ready.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here before the Senate committee. My name is Jerry Nolte. I'm the presiding commissioner of Clay County, and I am here to testify in favor of this bill. I think one of the points that was made, and I want to thank Senator Nurrenbern and Senator Gregory for allowing us to come here and speak. One of the things that I think cannot be said enough, and that is, this is not about competition. This is about how we cooperate and how we retain these important franchises for the state of Missouri. That being said, we have in Clay County, I think, demonstrated by the fact that we have taken a vote within the commission to endorse this action, and it was unanimous. While we are a nonpartisan body, there are members who are going to be identifying with both political parties. We've worked with local businesses, and we have worked with the local municipality to make sure that we are all speaking with one voice, and it would be our pleasure to be able to add our voice to that of the state of Missouri. What we're looking for on this is basically a tool that we can use so that when we are called upon to support what Missouri is doing, we can in fact do our part and make sure that we are fully participating partners in making sure that this important piece of this important development stays in the state of Missouri, both of them for that matter. And we certainly would appreciate any help you could give us to make sure that that does go forward. So I also have one of my colleagues who will be joining in a few moments, who is also on the commission, to just underscore how important it is that the commission see this thing through, and that the support within the commission, and I hope across the county, is going to be both broad and deep. Thank you, Senator.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Scott Wagner. I serve as one of the Western Commissioners in Clay County. I'm here today to ask for your support for 710 and 713. I will reiterate what my colleague said just a moment ago, that this is not about competition. This is about being on the same team, and that team is Team Missouri as we move forward with these discussions. One of the things that I think is important to understand as to why are we asking for this particular tool in our toolbox is simply this. No matter where our teams end up, there needs to be a landlord. The Jackson County Sports Authority has served as the landlord for both these teams at the Truman Sports Complex for, well, almost over 60 years. If indeed we are asked to step forward with our site, we need a similar sort of tool to act as that landlord, to deal with everything from leases, how construction is going, and so on and so forth. That is why we ask for it. I can tell you in the last year and a half, as we have discussed this site, that is the primary site Clay County has to offer with both of these teams, that is the question that comes up. Do you have a sports authority? And our answer is always, well, no, but we have other means that we may be able to get that landlord function done. Simply put, they're used to dealing with structures like these. There is a structure that exists that we are now asking you to help us adopt in Clay County. And finally, I'll just say, and maybe to Senator Gregory's earlier point, at the end of the day, it is not our decision where those teams go. The teams make that decision, and they may choose to come to the Missouri team and let us be a part of it. But even if they do not, this tool can be helpful to us in the future for other sorts of structures, other sorts of teams, other sorts of opportunities that could potentially come to Clay County. And if that tool is already there, then we can get beyond that discussion and down to the brass tacks of those projects, if you will. So we hope that you will support these opportunities for us. And again, just to reiterate the point that my colleague said, we're part of Team Missouri. And if those teams end up anywhere in Missouri, we are quite happy for that. As was said a moment ago, we don't want them to go anywhere else, and I'm sure you would agree. Appreciate your time today, and I'm open for any questions that you may have.
Is there any questions of the Commissioner? Thank you very much,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, both of you, for coming over. Is there anyone else to testify in favor of Senate Bill 710, 713? Is there anyone testifying in opposition? Does anyone testify for informational purposes only? Well, guys, you did a good job. Are there any closing comments from the senators?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next presentation is going to be House Bill 73. I see it's a House Committee substitute, Mr. Representative. So if you can come forward and begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity. My name's Tim Taylor. I represent the 48th District, which is Howard, Cooper, Sheridan, and the western third of Randolph County. I had hoped all those people were here to hear my bill, but I see most of them left, so it's okay. I think there's at least one out there. House Bill 73, those of you who have been on the House side will be familiar with it once I start laying it out. It has been batted around for 7 years now. It has been changed about 3 times, and I'll go over that. What the House bill does is, as our communities, our rural towns, as the population moves out, the rural towns are having difficulty even meeting quorums on their different committees that require them to sustain viability as a small town. So what this does is it allows for those mayors who have the authority to appoint outside of the city limit by 5 miles, those people who, like myself, are vested in my small community, and it's about 3 miles away, appoint those people to those boards, think about planning and zoning, those things. There are some stipulations. Those people have to either, one, own a business in that community or property in that community, which would leave me out of my small town of Bunston. We changed it. The iterations of this have been the concern about elected officials, appointing into an elected official position, so we've made that not possible. Also, the population was, from its original bill that I picked up from another representative, increased that population limit because the city of Fayette, where Central Methodist University is located, that'll give you a sense of the size that we're talking about. That 3,000 covers them. They had approached me and said this would be really good for their community to be able to have this opportunity every so often. So I raised that. It is 4th class cities only, 3,000 in population or less. I didn't realize it when I started drafting this that there are 4th class cities who are of populations of 60,000 out there. Yep, I didn't know that. But we limited it to the small rural communities. And then the last change that happened on the House floor prior to coming over here was that the St. Louis County, one of the reps from there preferred that St. Louis County not be included in this. I think we could only come up with 2 towns that are 4th class and under the population that's stipulated here, and those towns have some issues that she was asking, and this is completely driven by our rural communities, and that I told her that, so I said absolutely no problem. It passed out of the House 154 to nothing, I believe, and to the good. I don't believe it's gotten a negative or no vote in its whole course, in its whole lifespan. So that's pretty much it. So I appreciate it again and would happy to take any questions.
Does anyone on the committee have a question? Representative Taylor. Senator Crawford.
And I don't think you said this. Do you know how many towns this affects in the state? Do you know that number? I'm just curious.
Senator, I don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's a good question.
I was just curious. Thank you.
There's a lot in the 12th district. Senator Beck, did you have a question?
Just curious where you came up with the number of 3,000.
Again, the city of Fayette, this bill was filed, and the administrator came to me one day about 3 or 4 years ago and said, hey, this bill exists. It would really do us good. And so when I took it over from the rep who had originally drafted it, I wanted to increase that so that the city of Fayette would be falling under those guidelines. So,
Thanks.
Yep.
Senator Berger.
Thank you, Representative, for bringing this forward. Can you tell me why this didn't pass last year? It passed the House, right? last year?
It did. Senator, you were just on our side talking about why certain bills don't pass, and it just fell through the cracks. You know, there were
When they got over here?
Yeah, it wasn't a priority, and you know how things go. Sometimes these things just don't make it through.
Thank you.
You bet.
Senator Henderson.
Just quickly, I wanted to thank you for bringing it because it also affects several of them in mine that have come to me in the past because I looked at your bill and said, we can't get people to fill some of these boards, and they're struggling with it, and they're trying to still keep things together. Water and sewer seems to be some of the bigger problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Any other questions? Is there anybody here testify in favor? Yeah, please come forward. And I know you've got your little sheet. Thank you. Please begin.
Very briefly, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Fred Dreiling today, representing the Missouri Association of Municipal Utilities. We've worked with the sponsor on this bill and put some safeguards in there to make sure there was no conflict of interest, so therefore we are here to speak in favor. Be happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions of this witness? Seeing none, thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Testify in favor, please come forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Richard Sheets, Executive Director of the Missouri Municipal League, and we'd like to go on record in support of House Committee substitute for House Bill 73. We've been working on this for a number of years and worked out the little major hurdles, but little wording changes. But you know, the population, we've talked to a lot of cities, and I think we could probably raise the population a little higher because you know a lot of our cities have difficulties finding individuals to serve on some of our planning commissions, park boards. And Senator Crawford, you mentioned how many cities. It'll affect at least 250 cities in the state of Missouri. So this is a very good bill, and I'll try to answer any questions if I can.
Any questions of this witness? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Anyone else testify in favor? Anyone testify in opposition? Informational purposes only. Thank you. Representative, any closing comments?
Just thank you, committee, for allowing me to come here. It's the first time I get to testify in the Senate lounge, so yeah, been here a few times, but it was an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Help my grandkid get his turkey. Okay, next on the list, House Bill 233, Representative Gallick.
Good afternoon, Chair Black and committee. My name is Representative Sherry Gallick. I represent District 62, which is Bates and Cass County. A lot of times people will say these bills are very simple. This is a very, very simple bill. It repeals a current requirement to post 2 notifications physically for zoning and planning meetings. Instead, the county wants to, well, it will, and it is, wants to post it online and in the paper 15 days prior. Cass County is one of 13 non-charter counties. The other counties are not involved. The only county that would be involved is Greene, and they said that this is not an issue. Again, it's just not physically posting in the ground. Which can be dangerous because some of these places are very small and it's an intersection. So with that, I will take questions.
Is there any questions of the representative? Doesn't look like it.
All right, thank
Do
you.
we?
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
You don't have
I
to
don't
leave?
leave, yes.
See, let's see if we've got anybody testify in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kara Hoover on behalf of Cass County. As the representative mentioned, this is an effort and efficiency as we see it. We still want to be transparent and post that online and in the newspapers. It would just not require someone spending a day of their time driving around posting outside on physical locations.
Okay, are there any questions of this witness? None. Thank you very much. Anyone else testify in favor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doug Cruz with the Missouri Press Association. We just want to go on record in support of the bill. Thank you.
Do anybody question Mr. Cruz? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else testify in favor?
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Melissa Vatterat. I'm with Missouri Coalition for the Environment. I've been following this bill from Representative Gallick for a couple of years now, and I think it's really great. We need increased transparency for constituents to be able to see what's going on in their local government. So I fully support this bill, and I've outlined in some written testimony some other provisions in statute where the same changes would be helpful for other areas of local government so that constituents know how to engage.
Thank you. Any questions of this witness? Thank you very much, ma'am. Anyone else testify in favor?
Thank you.
Anyone testify in opposition? Informational purposes only. Representative, any closing comments?
No, just thank you so much for hearing the bill. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now we are ready to go to House Committee Substitute, House Joint Resolutions 23 and 3. Representative, I'm going to try this. I had some of you in school, probably not your family. It was Caton, where we were at. Okay. Please begin when you're ready.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Good afternoon. I'm Carolyn Caton. I represent the 33rd District, which is about the 20-mile marker east of Kansas City and out south. And I'm very pleased and happy to be here for the first time presenting in front of the Senate. This is quite exciting. So thank you for letting me be here. So House Committee Substitute for HJR23 and 3 would make the county assessor position an elected position versus an appointed one. You may or may not be aware, but out of 114 counties in the state of Missouri, Jackson County is the only county left that has an appointed assessor versus an elected assessor. And the voices of the people would like to be heard and make this position an elected position. It's not a silver bullet. I'm sure everyone's aware of the tax debacle we have going on in Jackson County, and they're about to start another one in 2025. So this isn't going to fix the debacle, but it's a start, and it gives people hope that they have a voice. And I would ask that you please vote in favor, and I would be happy to take any questions that you have.
Does anyone have any questions? Senator Berger.
I was just curious, how long has the Jackson County assessor been in office?
I do not have the answer to that question, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of the representative? Yes, Senator.
Senator, I'll answer that question. Too long.
Thank you, Senator.
Representative, thank you so much for bringing this bill to our attention. I filed a mirror bill as well, and I completely agree. Being from Jackson County, we have got to get an elected assessor. So thank you very much. Good to see you today, too.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? No. Does anyone here testify in support of HJRs 23 and 3?
Actually, I had a witness, Jackson County Legislature, who was going to be here in person, and he was not able to because he's actually speaking on another case. He has submitted testimony. But if I may, could I just read a couple sentences, and that would be all?
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. When we have the State Tax Commission legally declaring that Jackson County's 2023 assessment cycle was unlawful, but the authority of one or two individuals overrules that and usurps the process, it makes the voters feel powerless. Just would like to leave that for everyone to kind of think about.
Now, do we have anybody that wants to be a witness in favor? Please return.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Chris Ropey here on behalf of the City of Independence, the fifth largest city in the state of Missouri, located in Jackson County. We are very supportive of this legislation for our citizens. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of this witness? None. Thank you, sir. Anyone else testify in favor? Anyone testify in opposition? Informational purposes only. Any closing comments, Representative?
Simply to say thank you very much, and I truly would appreciate a vote so the voices of Jackson County can be heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have a great afternoon. Okay, our next bill will be House Bill 939. Representative Jones, please come forward and begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman. Members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Mike Jones. I represent District 12. That includes Kansas City, Parkville, Riverside, part of Kansas City. And I think we can all agree that there's a crisis in affordable housing here in our state. Currently, the median home price sits at $459,000, a number far out of reach of many Missourians. House Bill number 939 addresses both affordability and consumers' rights. This bill prevents municipalities and counties from imposing excessive and unnecessary green energy efficiency regulations on new residential homes and homeowner renovations. These regulations strip away consumer choice and add substantial costs, making it harder for Missouri families to achieve the American dream of owning a home. The mandates are currently in place in Kansas City, which is part of my district, and it forces builders and homeowners to comply with the 2021 IECC efficiency codes, even though builders were already adhering to affordable and effective efficiency standards outlined in the IRC codebook. These mandates can add up to $31,000 in additional costs to a home, and the burden of these efficiency standards is so high that it would take 90 years of savings for the consumer to recover their investment. Because of these regulations, building permits in Kansas City are down 54% compared to the surrounding areas. That means far less builders are building, which reduces housing supply, inflates home costs even more, and puts home ownership further out of reach. To put the additional costs into perspective, for every $1,000 added to a home's cost, it prices out 1,840 Missouri households. This legislation is seeking to restore the consumer's right to buy a home that best suits their needs without sacrificing health or safety, and ensures that the hardworking people of Missouri have the opportunity to choose a safe and economical roof over their heads. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Okay. Committee. Yes, Senator Nicola.
Representative, thank you very much. I want to comment on your pocket square. I love it.
Oh, thank you, Senator.
On your bill, you said the median home price, is this in the whole state, $459,000?
Yes, sir.
And then you said these green energy, as you mentioned, these standards would cost up to $31,000 per house. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that on that $459,000 home, the $31,000?
I would say no. I've got some folks behind me that could better answer that, but I would say probably not. It'd be on top of.
So what are some of the things that would be included in that $31,000 or these green energy codes?
Yes, sir. That's a good question. So a couple of things. They have to be prepped for solar, which most people don't want solar at this point. I think the technology isn't quite there, but I don't have a problem with solar in general. All of them are required to have an EV charger. The amount of insulation that goes in the roof far exceeds what we currently have, so the roofs have to be raised up, so more lumber.
I'm sorry, do you know what the R value would be?
I don't.
Okay.
But I have some folks that can answer that question.
Sure.
Some of the issues they have that the houses are so constructed so tight that they actually have to have a mechanical breather, so to speak, to bring air into the homes. You have to have additional dimmer switches and motion lights that are all additional costs as well. So just a few things.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the committee? Senator Nurrenbern.
Good afternoon. Thanks for being with us today, Representative.
Good afternoon.
I did not listen to any of the debate on this in the House, so this is all new to me. I had some conversations last week for the first time. So just help me out, if you will, Representative. How did you come up with the idea for this bill, or who brought you the bill?
Yeah, so I've talked to a number of builders, developers, all throughout the area, and what first drew me to it was the fact that we have a local developer, before I had even won my race for District 12, the post about how much the building permits were down compared to the surrounding area, the 54% number.
So let me jump in there. So building permits for the city of Kansas City, and I'm sorry if this is an ignorant question, I really don't know. So if the city of Kansas City passed the new ordinance in 2021, is that what you're saying? And since that time, the building permits are going down?
That's correct, Senator.
And I guess I would just like to see some more information if you can provide that for me, if that's just, there's a lot of rising costs out there right now. Representative, I don't know if you've looked at what President Trump's planning to do with tariffs and what that's going to do to the price of lumber, but all of a sudden we're going to be dealing with a whole host of things, and I don't know if we're going to be able to pinpoint it that it was this one thing why building permits were down. Obviously, the cost of houses is going up astronomically, I think. And so I just would like to see some more longitudinal data, quite frankly, to see if that's really the cause, that these additional regulations are the cause for building permits to go down in the city of Kansas City, and if they have gone down in the surrounding municipalities. Obviously, you're in Parkville, I represent Gladstone. I'm just kind of curious to see some other data to really be able to pinpoint to this. And I guess one of my concerns is, and I'm going to just say it as it is, quite frankly, if there's any sort of cost savings, right? If you put more insulation, like we bought an old home, that was the first thing we did, is make sure that there was a heck of a lot more insulation out there, because our heat was just going right through the roof, right? So as soon as we were able to do that, all of a sudden our energy bills come down. I'm really worried about right now that we're doing legislation that would take away any of the standards that a local government has decided to put in place by their local elected officials. At the same time, we just passed a massive omnibus utilities bill that really has the potential to raise rates on users. So I'm going to put all of that out there, Representative. It's a lot to digest, but again, as I look at this, I mean, this is not something that I think we should be taking any steps backwards. Quite frankly, just the opposite.
Sure. No, I don't think anybody wants to go backwards. A couple of things. The 2009 standards, I'm not sure how old your house was.
Okay, so my first house was in the city of North Kansas City, so it was like a
older
1940 little bungalow, right? And then now my current home is a 2005.
Yeah, so the builders right now in Kansas City, they operate off the 2009 standards.
Okay.
And why the 2009? They're effective and they're affordable, much more effective than your 2005 home or your older home in North Kansas City. And they can measure the savings, and they can tell you exactly how they do it as far as 2009 to these 2021 standards. And
The savings on the house, not the savings on utilities. And
the savings from these energy efficiencies.
Okay.
They can measure it. And it's not there. The cost effectiveness is just not there. So it's kind of like what's happening is the city of Kansas City is saying, well, if you went to buy a car and I have X amount of money, because every $1,000, right, we lose more Missouri households. And you just want the basic Kia, no options, nothing fancy. It's like the city of Kansas City say, no, you need to add $3,000 worth of these options that a lot of people, they can't pay for it. So I think I don't have any, and most people have nothing against if you want these options in your home. It's being forced on everyone. I think that's the problem. But 2009 is a great standard that we use, and they're effective.
Okay. Thank you.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Well, yeah, and like I said, if you have any data to show me, when you were saying that this really is the cause of building permits to going down, I would just like to see some hard data on that.
Yes, we can provide that to you.
Any other questions from the committee for the representative? Thank you. Do I have anybody testify in favor of this legislation? Please raise your hand if you're in favor. Okay. Let's, it doesn't sound wise for me not to start timing you at the beginning, but please listen to the people in front of you. Try to stay at that 3 or 4 minute discussion so we can get through this, okay? And I know you drove a long ways to be here. So first person in favor, let's get up, come forward. If I could have the second person move closer to the front so that you're ready to go next, that would be helpful. We do need a witness form turned in. Thank you, sir. Please sit down, introduce yourself, and begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Will Reuter. I'm the Executive Vice President at the Home Builders Association of Greater Kansas City. The conversation in front of us, and thanks to Representative Jones for bringing this issue forward, the question before everyone in the housing space today is the level of affordability, and the affordability conversation begins and ends with housing supply and what circumstances exist that are restricting supply. So it can kind of be explained in the terms of 5 L's. That's land, labor, lumber, lending, and laws. And the confluence of those 5 L's determine what the market can actually bear or produce when it comes to housing. As was stated, this body, I wish it was able to negotiate international trade agreements. It cannot, or functionally lower interest rates. It cannot, but it can assess the level of regulatory treatment for new home construction, and that's what we're here today. So as Representative Jones stated, there was a 54% reduction year over year in new permitting activity in Kansas City, Missouri. That time, at that exact same time period, the rest of the metro, even including that reduction in Kansas City, Missouri, was up 14% year over year. So we did see year over year growth metro-wide, but a significant deterioration in Kansas City. There were 98 residential construction companies that pulled single-family permits in 2023 in the city of Kansas City, Missouri. That number in 2024 was 22, a 78% reduction in the number of companies that are investing in new home construction in the city of Kansas City. With a couple of those data points, I will stop because I do want to make certain that you have the information that you would want to glean from me during my time here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of this witness? Senator Henderson.
Some of the requirements we heard from that they were having there in Kansas City, how do they relate to the other surrounding counties there in Kansas City? So what are some of the differences?
Kansas City was one of the first cities in the entire country to adopt the 21 Energy Code in its totality without any local amendment or improvement at the local level. And so the rest of the jurisdictions are on functionally a 2009-2012 equivalent when it comes to energy efficiency and a 2018 standard when it comes to structural.
Thank you.
Senator Beck.
I guess my question, good afternoon. So I get my question for you is, and you mentioned about international law and all these other things, but also these were already decided on the local level, right? Aren't these elected representatives of Kansas City that voted for this?
Yes, sir. The city council passed it in the fall of 22.
Which I'm assuming they had hearings and all these other things.
Correct.
And it went through planning. It was probably a several-year process. Probably a 2-year process, maybe.
It was about 4 months.
Oh, 4 months? Okay, well, that's pretty quick. Usually it lasts a lot longer. So it only took 4 months? Okay. You mentioned all the L's. You also forgot about location, too. I guess location is part of it, is a big deal, and school districts are another, actually a reason why people live in certain areas. Vast majority of times it comes to a school district, especially for families. But what I'm asking you is, I think they've already decided this. So according to with the free market approach of this, if nobody's building in Kansas City or nobody's buying in Kansas City, do you think that eventually that'll change on its own because of the free market?
Well, I do think certainly the market is going to dictate a lot of that kind of movement across some of those jurisdictional boundaries in the Kansas City metro or across any jurisdiction in the state of Missouri. I do think the market will certainly dictate what is going to happen when it comes to housing in general. But what I will say is that when you've got such regulatory disparity between jurisdictions, some of those decisions do get made for people. And when you're looking at the continually rising cost of housing, if someone is required to reside in the city of Kansas City, Missouri by virtue of their profession, they will be in competition for much less inventory, which certainly has a price and consequence for those working families.
And there's a lot of older homes there and things like that. The other question I have on you, you mentioned the 2009 International Code. So is that effective everywhere in Missouri, or is there areas where they don't even have this code?
Most of the state of Missouri doesn't have a published energy code.
Oh, most of the state of Missouri doesn't even have a published energy code? So would you be willing to put in a published energy code for the rest of the state of Missouri, 2009, in this bill?
I think it certainly is.
Be a good amendment, I think, right?
Well, my name isn't on any ballot, sir. So,
No, I'm just curious.
No, but I would say I think the more standardization that can occur across these jurisdictions would create the economies of scope and scale that would make investment in new home construction much more fungible across some of these jurisdictions.
If we would apply a 2009 code to all jurisdictions in Missouri, that would be a standardization. Right.
I believe 90 of the 124 counties in the state do not have published
114
energy standards.
counties?
114, I'm sorry. 114. And so my assumption would be that many of those jurisdictions have determined that these standards are anti-competitive within their jurisdiction, so it's not appropriate for them.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's only appropriate for Kansas City then?
I wouldn't say it is necessarily appropriate for Kansas City based on the way that the
I see my
data has
colleagues
shown
up here don't want these codes
Thank
coming
you,
to
Doug.
their area.
Or Cinder.
Thanks.
Any more questions? Send her back. Sorry, sir. Part of that was him and I. Okay, any other questions of the committee? Thank you. Next person in favor. Thank you very much for trying to stay that 3-minute range. Please state your name and begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Woods. I'm with Ashlar Homes. I'm a home builder in the Kansas City metro area. I'm coming today in favor of this bill. I think as we talked about, new home construction now, average price is $459,000. The National Association of Home Builders does a survey every few years to figure out how much of that cost is government regulation, codes, ordinances, things that hurdles we have to jump through. So 25% of the cost of that house now is government regulation. So of that $459,000, $110,000 in excess of that is government regulation and codes. I try to build what I call attainable or affordable houses. I think it is the fastest way to wealth in this country, and we're pushing it so far out of people's ability to achieve, it's ridiculous in the last few years. So on top of that, in the last 10 years, 25% of that $110,000 is 100% contributed to code changes to a new home. So $30,000 of a new home is attributed to, of that $110,000 is attributed to new codes that happen in every single code cycle. Yes, there's many ways to combat affordability in housing, but this is one of the fastest and easiest ways you all have at your disposal to help young Missourians or all Missourians to be able to achieve home ownership. To the question that came earlier, I was one of the first ones to build a 21 Energy Code house in Kansas City. Just so happened that we had built one month earlier under the old code, side by side, exact same house, square footage, finish, everything was exactly the same. We do have methods to test those houses. We sent energy raters into the old one with the permission of the homeowner. We had to send an energy rater into the new one based on the code. Cost the homeowner $15,000 in this case. I build very small, modest houses. $15,000 extra to build the house to the homeowner. Save them $125 annually in their energy. Cost them $1,200 extra in mortgage payments. So we forced somebody $1,200 extra mortgage payments to save them $125. It makes no sense. It never pays back. And all of these things are options that we sell on an option sheet to a customer. So it's just like Ford or Chevy saying, oh, by the way, you have to take the electric vehicle. You do not have a choice for the gas engine. That's what we're doing. You don't have a choice anymore of what furnace you put in that house or what wall insulation you use or air conditioning unit. We've taken all those choices away from people and pushed them down their throat. And while we've done that, we've taken them out of home ownership entirely and forced them into a situation to rent for the rest of their lives. And with that, I would take any questions.
Any questions to this witness? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else testify in favor, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Fred Dreiling today representing the Builders Association, a chapter of the AGC based in Kansas City with offices in Springfield, here in Jefferson City, and St. Joe. We'd like to go on record in support of the bill. Senator Beck, to answer your question, in the old days, everybody from the industry, enforcement, and the city would sit down and go through these codes, and they would work it out. This last thing that was done by the city was just introduced and passed with no input, practically anybody from the industry. I do believe in local control. You've heard me say that many, many times. But in this instance, we believe that it's government overreach, and therefore, we're happy to support Representative Jones's bill.
Fred, that's why I was wondering why you were up here. Because you believe in local control. That's why I was wondering why you're up here.
Except for this instance of the government overreach. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Senator Nurrenbern.
Okay, Fred, I've got to ask then, so was there not the normal hearing process? I know it went...
No. Typically, Alan Dillingham, my boss, and I have some testimony that I delivered from, they would sit down with the code enforcement people with the city.
Yeah.
They would go through this process, and they would develop a plan that worked for everybody. And this latest, iteration that they did, that did not occur, and that's simply what I'm pointing out.
Okay. But there was a public hearing, and you all testified.
Yes,
in
ma'am.
opposition.
Yeah.
Do you know what the council vote was?
I don't. I believe that there were at least 3 council people that took the position that we had, and the rest, of course, went with the mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person speak in favor, please come forward. Thank you. If there's another person in favor, please head forward as well. Please begin when you're ready, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Temenkamp. I am a home builder in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm a builder that historically builds above code requirements. Kansas City, Missouri had a policy in place that did not prevent any builder from building above their standards. The testing that we do on our homes is done by our energy raters. Our homes, on average, cost our customers about $2,500 a year less in energy costs by the way that we build them. We happen to be a builder that was caught in the middle of this code change with a house that we had already stated we were going to build above code requirements under the 2018. We added a basement to it, which had to comply with the 2021 code. So this created a problem, as in our energy raters didn't have the software and ability to test a basement against the rest of the house that was already being tested to a different set of codes. The long story is we were required to charge this customer basically about another $2,800 for the energy efficiencies that we had to put into the basement alone, which saved them $81 a year. Simple math is that's a 34-year payback on just the basement. So there is nothing that keeps us as builders from going above and beyond, and my job is to educate my clients on what their investment is in their home and what's important to them. We try to sell them on what makes sense for their family. It is not something I believe our local municipalities should have control and mandate what they do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions to this witness? Senator Beck.
Just clarification, you mentioned 2018, so was there a different code in 2018?
So we're technically under 2 codes right now. We're under the 2018 IRC, which is what basically makes up the shell of the home. And we're under the 2021 IECC, which governs the energy consumption basically of that home and indoor air quality, things like that.
So before this, you were building to 2018 standards, and this wants to go back to 2009.
So we're building to a 2018 IRC, which is the structural standard. The 2009 code is the IRC as well. We are building at an equivalent.
Okay, this has both, as a IRC and IEC.
Right. So
both being 2009.
Correct. So there is basically, in Kansas City, Missouri, we build under 2018 IRC with a chapter of that removed, and we build under the 2021 IECC, which governs energy usage, which is that chapter that's been removed.
So this would roll back, and according to you, you didn't have any issues with the 2018 IRC, but this would roll that back to 2009 also.
It would set you at a standard that you are building at 2009 equivalents, which is what most builders are still building above that currently.
Thanks.
Any other questions of the witness? Hold on just a minute, Representative. Any other questions? Thank you. Anyone else testify in favor? Okay, how many people do I have in opposition? Can we stay in that 3-minute or less time frame, list people in front of you and not duplicate too much stuff? All right, who's up first? Please have your witness form and come forward. Please begin.
Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. My name is Laura Pastine. I live and work in District 7 in Kansas City. I'm an architect. I'm also currently our AIA, American Institute of Architects, president for the state of Missouri. At the state level, we advocate for architects in the built environment across the state. Just to give you a sense of our scale a little bit, there are 5,500 licensed architects across Missouri, and 2,200 of those are part of our AIA membership. We are here in opposition to House Bill 939, which would create a ceiling to any codes affecting energy efficiency to residential, but in the perfected bill that was approved by the House, it now also includes commercial and industrial construction, which is a huge issue. We did share a series of speaking points that you all should have in front of you. There was a lot of math that's been shared so far, and we, as you can imagine, we don't agree with a lot of the math that we're hearing. We have some different numbers and some different definitions that we're looking at. Since this did start as a conversation on home affordability, when this bill was first introduced, there are no definitions as part of the bill. What is affordable housing? What is a green standard? What is high performance? There are no definitions or in the language of this bill. We are using the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's definition that a home is truly affordable for people if no more than 30% of your gross income is going towards not just your house but your utilities. We have some statistics here about what the actual median home price is in Missouri. It is not $459,000. I don't know if that's referencing new construction, but most of us in Kansas City and Missouri, that is not what we see as a median home price. We see House Bill 939 having big implications to jobs in Missouri. We have almost 130,000 folks who represent our construction workforce. That's not just single home families, family construction, that's all of our construction. And those are folks that make their livelihood installing insulation, better roofs, things like that. So this affects those jobs as well. In terms of building codes, we know that there are 209 jurisdictions across the state of Missouri that have some type of building code beyond 2009. We know that 78% of the population of our state lives in some type of municipality that has a building code. So this idea of making building codes above 2009 null and void is basically removing the choice of 209 communities in what they decided was best for them. In terms of permitting, the permitting data that we're seeing does not support what we've been hearing so far in support of this bill. With any new building code that is initiated, there is a bit of a dip, but the dip has normalized. And in fact, especially now that we're talking about residential, commercial, and industrial construction, permitting has actually gone up in 2024. What we're hearing about payback is just not accurate. What we find is most of our homes are actually a bit more humble. Most people aren't building new build $700,000 homes. What we're seeing is most of the first costs are around $6,500 to $9,000, which has around a 9 I think around 10 is the average, but around 9 to 12-year payback. The reason why this matters is the state of Missouri currently has the 9th highest utility bills in the country, and we're kind of worried that we're going to kind of get worse there. What we're seeing across the state is there's around an average of over 14% increase in utility bill costs just in the last year alone. So our utility bills are going up. So thank you. So we're asking for your support in imposing this bill. In terms of Missouri being a home rule state, our local communities have made choices that they consider best for the design and construction of their buildings. And we believe that our local communities have the ability to make any modification if there are folks who are unhappy with those choices. Thank you.
Any questions of the witness? Senator Crawford.
A couple things that I heard mentioned were like solar ready and the electric charging stations. I'm really not for either one of those, so why should I have to pay for those? I guess my question is there a middle ground anywhere here, or because those two, it would be a waste of money for me to spend things on that if that were me purchasing that house. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. So a lot of what we're hearing about are kind of like absolute worst case scenarios. Anytime we do any building code, there are always exemptions in the code in terms of what's applicable and what scenarios and things like that. Some of the language that lives in that energy code says that you have to have infrastructure to support those things. So in some cases, there are exemptions, there are code modification requests, there are ways for us to right size the way that we're building our buildings. So there are mechanisms in place, so there are no worst case scenarios that make people do things that don't make sense for them.
Anyone else? Senator Nurrenbern.
Two things I really want to highlight, and those were my initial questions to the representative, was the point that you're saying your numbers are showing that building permits are actually up in 2024 over 2023, as well as when we look at those cost savings. And again, if there's any other data, I would love to see, but when I'm looking straight from, if this is your data from the city of Kansas City, again, if we could have those over a few years, I would love to look at that moving forward. But also utility costs. This is something I'll be honest, it's something that I've always been really cognizant of, is how can we save money on utilities, right? For my first home that we bought, piping in as much insulation as possible, and then really starting to recognize our savings per month, both in the summer and in the winter. Now, no matter what, utility costs are going up. And I have spoke on a separate bill, on the utilities omnibus bill, but no matter what, the estimation is that that is going to cost anywhere from $1,100 to $2,700 per household per year in energy increase in utility rates. So, quite frankly, if that is the case, probably that payback will happen even sooner.
Absolutely.
Right now, your estimation is $720 annual energy savings per year with a payback in 9 to 12 years. And again, if energy rates continue to increase, then that payback would be even sooner. So I appreciate you pointing those out, and just wanted to comment on that. Thank you.
Senator Henderson.
Thank you for coming today. I wanted to ask a question, kind of piggyback on Senator Crawford. So you're saying if I was building a new home in the city of Kansas City, and I did not want the EV charging or the solar panel hookups, I would not have to have that in my home?
Generally, there is a sit down with your AHJ, your code reviewer, and when you do your plans review. That is where those conversations happen. So in terms of what's required day one, a lot of what's being asked for is conduit, plan for it or something like that. No one is making you put a solar array on your home. There are a lot of communities that don't even, again, have infrastructure to support that. So a lot of it depends where you're at and your choice. But the codes are not going to tell you you have to have certain things if they are excessive beyond what you're looking for.
Okay, so I'm trying to make sure I'm clear. So I would not have to have the hookup for solar. I'm not talking about the solar panels, the hookup for it, or hookup for the EV in my home if I did not want it.
Well, it's a matter of what we're calling a hookup. If we're talking new construction, then it probably means like, okay, what size of a panel do you have for your
so I would have to have the panels to be able to handle that.
Well, not in terms of batteries for the actual, infrastructure that you would need for that system. It's just a matter of, is your service in place for what you would need in terms of that home. But you're not being told you have to have solar panels on day one. The houses that they're building do not include solar panels.
But I am being told I'd have to have everything hooked up where they could go on there without any further electrical work. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct. That is not correct. And I would like to go back and pull out the data and be able to provide that. I don't have the code book in front of me. I can't speak to that specifically, but it is my understanding, no, you do not have to have infrastructure on day one to have a PV or any type of electric vehicles, charging station, or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll wait. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Next person in opposition, please come forward. State your name. Hopefully you got enough time that you've already turned in your witness form.
Mr. Chairman, Shannon Cooper today, representing the great city of Kansas City, and I really had no intention of coming up here, and I'm not an expert on the building codes, but there was a little bit of testimony that alluded that these regulations maybe were rushed through or took place without any input, and then during Senator Beck's inquiry, when he made the recommendation that maybe every community in the state ought to have some form of codes, and I saw your head start twisting around, I made the decision to come up here because what we do in Kansas City is a direct reflection upon our community and the people in that community who have elected the individuals to represent them. And Chairman Black, I can assure you that in your communities that you represent, none of this would probably fly. And that's great. We're not showing up at your county commission meetings or your smaller community city council meetings saying you have to have these energy efficient codes. But in the Kansas City area, this is what our people want. And this is what our city council has reflected in these codes. So I'm not an expert on these codes. I'm happy to get statistics if the folks behind me can't bring them to you. But I think we are not the boogeyman here. If this was so horrible, obviously Kansas City would not be growing like it is. During COVID, we did have some issues with issuing building permits just because of the uncertainty of COVID. But at the end of the day, the folks that are representing the Kansas City region are reflecting the values of our residents. And that's why I'm up here to oppose this today. Be happy to sit down with anybody, Nancy and I individually, bring our code folks over here if you have, deeper questions that we can't answer for you. With that, I'll stop chattering, Mr. Chairman, take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions this witness? Senator.
I appreciate you bringing that forward, Shannon. I think, in my Senate district, for example, when I look at that northeast quadrant, it's North Kansas City schools. I mean, we have plans for a 5th high school, more or less, in the work for North Kansas City schools because we're growing so quickly. When I was out knocking doors up in that area, in the northern area, that's still the city of Kansas City, and people don't recognize the city of Kansas City is 4 different counties.
Correct.
Right? I mean, that area is growing so quickly. And one of the things when I was knocking doors, right, it's not the same conversation that other folks are having, but I remember folks saying, I'm so grateful that you finally passed that law to say that my HOA can't decide if I get solar panels or not, right? They really wanted solar panels because people, my generation, were moving into our home, and I start making the plans, 15, 20 years, can I pay this off? I want to put solar panels on my home, and that's a decision, right, that I can make with, and people are telling me we're so glad that finally we can have solar panels, right? That's the thing that people want in our area, to be able to pay for yourself, to be able to, there's nothing more sufficient than being able to be off the grid and not have to pay somebody else to, for those things. And I just think it's interesting recognizing that this is very different. Different areas of the state are different, and we continue to grow. I think our numbers are going to speak to the fact that permits are actually going up, not down. People want to come to Kansas City, and I appreciate the council for recognizing that we want to make sure that those homes are built to a certain standard, and that's what they're elected to do as the elected officials. So
I appreciate that, Senator. And like I said, if we were so bad, we wouldn't be growing. We wouldn't be the largest city in the state
here. It's a great,
geographically
it's a great time to be in
or population.
City, for sure.
And at the end of the day, it's about local control. And we're sure not coming up here advocating against anything for folks in other communities.
Yep.
We're just saying, respect what our elected officials are doing, and that's where we're at today. And again, I appreciate the ability to come up here, and if anybody has any further questions, we're happy to bring
you.
folks over more intelligent than me.
Any other questions, this witness? Thank you.
Thank
Next
you, Mr.
person.
Chairman.
Good afternoon, Chairman Black. My name is Frank Zilm. I filled out my form electronically. I've been a resident of Kansas City, Missouri since 1976 and ran a business there for 40 years. During that period, I had the opportunity to serve on many commissions, and one of the things I learned was a little bit about how the city works, but also the joy of public testimony. So I will try to keep my comments as brief as possible. Much of the push behind 939 comes from Kansas City's adoption of 2021 edition of the National Energy Code. There has been misinformation presented at this meeting about the process that led to the city's decision and to its impact. Discussions to adopt the 2021 code first occurred in December of 2019, when the city code officials initially proposed adoption of the 2018 edition of the code. Many local organizations, some represented here today, encouraged the city to adopt the 2021 edition, which was in its final stages of completion and felt to be a better fit with the city's strategic environmental plan. Between 2019 and 2022, multiple city council meetings were held to discuss the adoption of the 2018 or 2021 code. I attended most of those meetings. Full opportunity was given by the chair for public testimony by all interested parties, with typically 40 to 60 speakers in each meeting. Council members asked perceptive questions and directed staff to independently investigate the issues. In an effort to fully explore the adoption of 2021, a meeting was arranged on August 16, 2022 at Union Station with over 50 participants, including the Home Builders Association, the Chamber of Commerce, the Building Owners Management Association, the American Institute of Architects, the Sierra Club, city council members, and others. The decision a decision in October 2022 was carefully considered. It was a 2.5-year process. After one of the committee hearing meetings, I remember commenting to someone that had testified in opposition to adoption that I found the process to be an inspiring example of democracy. Virtually all public testimony speakers gave valuable information. The tone was respectful on both sides. The majority of you committee members live in communities that have adopted more up-to-date codes than 2009. There are over 200 jurisdictions, as mentioned, statewide that have energy codes more current than 2009. These energy codes are part of an overall building code strategy that they are not arbitrary and capricious. There is no reason to take away local jurisdiction on these important issues, and there is no reason to put a fixed cap on these codes rather than establishing a base. So let the communities decide what's appropriate for their situation. I urge you to do not pass this bill.
Thank you, sir. Any questions to this witness? Thank you very much. Next person, please. Looks like you have your form. Please begin when you're ready. State your name, begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman Black, Representative. Thank you. Members of the committee, my name is Marcus Branstad. I work for the American Chemistry Council. We're a national trade association. We represent about 200 businesses involved in the very innovative business of chemistry across the country, including many of which have operations here in the state of Missouri, and include those various manufacturers who will be negatively impacted by this legislation, and we do respectfully request a no vote. This bill proposes to roll back building and energy codes to the 2009 levels, a version now 15 years out of date. While presented as a measure to increase affordability, we believe that it takes a one-size-fits-all approach that ultimately works against both homeowners and Missouri businesses. Critically, this bill restricts the freedom of Missouri communities, which 87 cities, 14 counties, that have chosen to adopt more recent energy codes because they believe that those standards will better serve the residents. Whether it's Kansas City or a rural township, we believe local leaders are the best equipped to decide what works best for their committee or for their communities. Now, to speak to the point of costs, proponents may argue that these codes make homes more expensive in a time of general housing unaffordability. And in the short term, it is an increased initial investment, but the return on investment is real. Studies show that families in energy-efficient homes can expect $600 to $700 annually in savings. Missouri is home to many high-quality insulation and air sealing product manufacturers, such as DuPont in Peevely, DAP Foam in Pacific, FSI in Earth City, Carlisle and Sykeston, and more. These manufacturers all stand to face more limited market in the state where they operate. Also, another unintended consequence that passing this bill would jeopardize federal programs for first-time homebuyers and low-income families. The Federal Housing Administration and U.S. Department of Agriculture mortgage programs currently require compliance with the 2021 IECC for new home purchases. This bill would leave hundreds of millions of dollars of federal money on the table by limiting construction to the standards proposed in this bill. Ultimately, Missouri citizens face the biggest burden when outdated codes are used like 2009. But Missouri manufacturers are also going to suffer. Missouri communities will no longer be able to choose what is best for themselves, like the 87 cities and 14 counties who have already done so, all while increasing energy demands. For these reasons, again, we respectfully request a no vote. And if it is the will of this committee and this body to pass this legislation, I believe that disclosure should be included. That when a new home buyer is anywhere in the state is to buy a new home, that it should be disclosed to them at what level and what level of energy efficiency that the home is expected to be at. You can't go out and buy a new major appliance, a TV, or anything without seeing what the annual cost is going to be to the consumer. I think Missouri home buyers should have to should get that same affordability. They should know the level to their homes or what they've been made and what they should expect in costs for the life of their investment, many of which, especially in the low income range, this would be the largest purchase, the most significant purchase that they've ever made. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
You bet your last statement brought up a question, though. I live in a home sitting on sandstone that was started in, I think, 1912. And you're saying that when I die and my kids sell that home, that you want a sticker on the front door that tells them what efficiency rating it would be? How much in the hell would that cost for somebody to come to my house? It's had 4 additions put on it and put that sticker on the front door.
I meant for new construction.
Oh,
new homes.
whew.
Because old homes do not.
I thought I was
fall under any
listening
codes.
really good to you, and then all
No,
of a
I'm
sudden
sorry.
things
I
went to crap
could feel
fast.
It. I could feel it coming from you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you for your
Thank
time,
you.
Mr. Chairman.
Next person in opposition, please come forward. State your name, and let's begin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Richard Sheets, Missouri Municipal League, and we would like to go on record in opposition to House Bill 939. We had good testimony previously, and I don't want to restate any of that, but building codes traditionally is a local matter, but it's not just tradition. It's the oversight and the changes in the codes that can be easily made when it's at the local level. I think we see legislation here when we pass legislation here in Jefferson City, and later we need to change it or modify it. It takes years and years to make those changes. At the local level, if local ordinances are enacted like building codes, and they need to be modified because we find that they aren't doing what they need to do, or there's unintended consequences, they can be changed easier at the local level. We believe the local elected officials should have the ability to do what they're elected for, and that's to pass ordinances that affect their community. I'll try to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you, Mr. Sheets. I have one question
Yes, sir.
that you brought up that during all this conversation, I have been listening, even though people behind you probably don't think I have. But you state those can be changed.
Sure.
And with your experience around, can you think of a few times and come to my office and give me a couple
Sure.
of those examples when I, as an ag teacher, set a code in my classroom
Mm-hmm.
at a higher level, and then I thought, oh crap, I shouldn't have done that, and reduced it. Has that ever happened in municipalities? And if it has, come by and let me know about it. Okay.
I do have some
Thank
examples.
you.
Yes, I will. Absolutely, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you. Any other questions? Senator Beck.
So I'll answer your question. It's happened in St. Louis County a couple of
Exactly.
times. I've watched them roll back things that were at a different standard, and after conversations and looking at them, they rolled them back. Just recently, I think they did a tobacco one. So, but it's other codes too that have been rolled back over time.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions? Next person in opposition, please come forward. State your name and begin.
Hi, my name is Brian Stockton. I'm president of the Mid-Missouri component of Architects AIA, which means I have everything in the center between Kansas City and St. Louis, basically. I find this kind of odd that we're having this discussion about a Kansas City issue in front of the state. Again, as many people have said, that this is more of a local issue. And I feel like a lot of the people I work with in the middle of the state would feel that same way. Doing a 2009 energy code in rural Missouri would be very difficult. It wouldn't go against my job, though, to recommend that they do that. When it comes down to this bill and we talk about affordable housing, even though this also affects commercial and also multifamily housing, I asked the question, what is affordable housing? And who is that affordable housing for? Is it affordable housing for somebody that just graduated college, or is it affordable housing for somebody that they're moving into their third house and this is going to be their retirement house? Is affordable housing 3-car garage, 4 bathrooms, and 5 bedrooms? What is affordable housing? There is cases all across this country where organizations and jurisdictions have come together and made affordable housing, and it may not look like what the new home builders are building. Because a lot of affordable housing are the bare minimum. It is a roof and a shelter for those people. And if that is a big topic that the committee would like to proceed, I would be welcome to sit down with anybody and talk about what affordable housing really could be. I was just here about a week ago lobbying for this bill with various senators, and we had a student with us, and she's looking for apartments for the next school year. They are not telling her what utility costs will be before she signs a lease on her apartment. She has no idea what she's walking into in the months of January, June, August, some of our hottest and most coldest months in the wintertime. Now, we've heard a lot of responses from builders in this industry, and I don't know how many of you are accustomed to the construction industry, but this is my world. It's not all of yours. What is the average home builder? What do they know about construction tendencies? Do they know to ask the right questions? By setting a 2009 ceiling on some of these big questions, we have people walking into houses where they don't know how much it's going to cost, and they become house rich and utility poor. Because when they have an $800 utility bill right after Christmas, they're not going to be able to pay for it. And with the rising utility costs and a lower standard of building, we're going to be hit significantly in the future.
Thank you, sir. Any questions to this witness? Thank you very much. Next person in opposition, please come forward, state your name, begin.
My name is Kara Stark. I'm here on behalf of the City of Columbia to go on record in opposition to the bill. I won't restate what's already been said, just to say that the City of Columbia does prefer that this stay within local hands. As a city, we've been very deliberate when considering what building codes to adopt. We currently enforce the 2018 IECC standard, and we worked with our local construction community to decide that that was the best building code for our community. We considered doing the 2021 IECC standards and decided not to. So we already work with our local construction community and would like to continue the ability to do that. One of our biggest concerns with this bill is that it would require us to move back to that 2009 standard, and that's without regard to the electrical safety improvements that are different between the 2019 and the 2009 and the 2018. So when you consider those safety standards that change, we'd like to keep going the way that we're going, and we think it's better in local hands. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions, this witness? Senator Beck.
So this bill would make you roll back your standards to 2009?
Right, so we currently enforce the 2018, we'd have to roll back the standards, and that's particularly concerning when you consider the expanded scope of the bill, that now it includes both residential and commercial. Those electrical safety improvements that are the changes between those codes, that's one of the main reasons we're concerned.
And I know St. Louis County was, they're currently on 2015. I asked somebody about that, what code they're on 2015, but there was a big debate. I think it was the 2021, and they decided not to do it. However, now they are looking at the 2024, I guess, is out, and they're looking at that code.
Yeah.
So this would cut off all those discussions and go back to 2009.
We held several hearings about the 2021 standards and decided to maintain enforcing the 2018.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next person in opposition, please come forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Trent Watson, registered lobbyist here on behalf of AIA Missouri, which is the architects. You've heard from many of our membership already. We had one person who couldn't make the trip last minute, but she did submit testimony, and I just wanted to make sure it went on the record. And you all should have this in front of you.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Any questions of this witness? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone else to testify in opposition, please come forward. Before this witness starts, how many do I have left? I see 2, 3, 4. Please begin.
Hi, Sherilyn Kelly, Manager of Building Energy Codes and Standards at the Institute for Market Transformation. I'm a resident of Missouri, based in Columbia, Missouri, going on record in opposition of House Bill 939 for many of the reasons already stated. I feel like this is an unnecessarily restrictive measure that undermines local authority and actually undermines affordability as well. As a Columbia resident, it always makes me happy to hear when we're making advances in our energy code, and I'm involved in the current adoption effort to consider the 2024 code. So we've already put a lot of work into evaluating that code and working with builders and other folks in the city. It feels like the right way to do things. For these reasons, I am in opposition. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions to this witness? Thank you very much, ma'am. Next person in opposition, please come up, inform, state your name, begin. Thank you very much.
Of course. Hello, Mr. Chairman and esteemed members of the committee. My name is Carrie Neiswanger. I am here on the behalf of the CR Club just to testify in opposition of this legislation. I'll be echoing a lot of what the opposition has to say, of course, so I'll keep it real short and sweet. Essentially, HB939 could create a whole host of issues, including preventing local control, hindering energy efficiency, and increasing environmental impact, and actually costing ratepayers and homeowners more in the long run, and also just preventing job growth. As I said, I won't be touching on any of the subjects that were talked about before to save some time, but something that wasn't touched on, preventing that job growth. This bill can negatively impact job growth in the green construction sector. The U.S. GBC, which is the U.S. Green Building Council, reports that the green building has created millions of jobs and billions of dollars, just contributed to the economy. From 2011 to 2014, national green construction generated $167.4 billion in GDP. In Texas alone, more than 720,000 jobs were attributable to green construction just during that time period. So just a one-size-fits-all rollback probably does not serve the best interest of our communities, and I'm here to just testify in opposition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Senator Nurrenbern.
Just a quick question. Do you know how many solar jobs there are in the state of Missouri?
No, I do not know off the top of my head, Senator.
Okay. If anybody who's listening online, I'm just curious how many solar companies there are. I know when we looked at solar, there was a whole host, and I was amazed at how many jobs there were in this sector. So I'd love to follow up and get some
Absolutely.
numbers there. Thank you.
Big time. Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next person in opposition, please come forward. And I think I've got one more after that to raise their hand, if I remember correctly. Please state your name. I see you turned in your witness form. Begin.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Chris Brzee. I'm with the National Electrical Manufacturers Association, or NEMA. I'm here in opposition to HB939. NEMA is the leading trade organization representing America's electro industry. The electro industry in Missouri supports more than 53,000 jobs and $6.6 billion in GDP contributions. As you've heard today, the bill would significantly weaken energy codes for residential dwellings and commercial buildings in local jurisdictions across the state that have adopted a more recent version of the IECC. These restrictions take away a community's local control and would put the residential energy codes nearly 2 decades out of date. By restricting energy code adoption to the 2009 IECC, will create regulatory uncertainty and negatively impact long-term energy costs for homeowners. The costs outweigh the benefits in rolling back and restricting energy code adoption in Missouri. A DOE analysis shows that the cost of constructing a home to the 2021 IECC in Missouri instead of the 2015 IECC would raise annual mortgage payments by only about $54 in some cases, while the energy savings would be roughly 26%, which is on average $657 savings annually on utility bills. Across the life cycle of the building, this analysis found the 2021 IECC equates to about $13,000 versus the 2015 IECC. So we see substantial improvement there. We also have concerns on the electro industry side about the rising energy demand in the United States. It's expected to increase over the coming years. Energy efficiency is the lowest cost and most effective way to meet this rising demand and ensure energy security for the country. A top priority for the United States. Missouri can help to achieve this by investing in long-term energy stability through promoting energy efficiency. Rolling back energy efficiency measures only increases long-term energy demand in Missouri. Up-to-date energy codes will ensure Missouri residents receive the benefits of new and more efficient technologies. It will save them significant money over the life cycle of their homes, and as you've heard, it will also help with jobs here in the state of Missouri. We support making housing more affordable. However, we must respectfully oppose this legislation because it will have the opposite effect as intended and raise costs for homeowners. Thank you so much for the consideration of our concerns. We request that you reject this legislation as written, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Any questions to this witness? I've got one before you walk off. Within this new code, did I hear somebody, and I don't remember whether it was a pro side or the against this legislation side, talk about automatic dimming switches being part of this code and on-off switches like motion sensor switches? Is that in this code?
I would have to check to verify the exact scope of that question for you, but I could get back to your office.
Okay, well, I'm sure somebody will come tell me just as soon as this is over. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
That's how you shut lights off my house. Come forward. Sorry you didn't get to be in the sidebar. Please state your name. Begin when you're ready.
My pleasure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is William Davies. I'm a resident of Kansas City, Missouri, and here respectfully speaking in opposition, asking you to vote no on this bill. And Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the time. Speaking as a resident of the city of Kansas City, Missouri, I'm a father of a 20-month-old, been married 6 years now, and a first-time home buyer in 2021. Mr. Chairman, I heard you have an old house like mine. Our house was built in 1934, and was not, needless to say, was not built to higher standard of codes. And my wife and I, we saved up. We were concerned about some issues that we were having with our gas stove. There were some like extra emissions and leaks in our household, and just caution about open flame with the baby. We decided we wanted that upgrade to an electric stove. It wasn't possible given the way that our house is built, so we had to do a lot of work to make sure that this could happen. We had to upgrade our electrical system. We had to dig into the wall. Someone had to come out multiple times to make this upgrade that we just wanted for our family. And it's something that our friends in the development community, contractors said would be a value add. We were able to do this work after a lot of savings, but all the contractors said it would have been more affordable if it was already built to allow for gas and electric. Now, I'm just speaking as someone who's watching out for his kiddo, and I see that there are a lot of folks who enjoy this as well. We're big Kansas City sports fans, particularly our soccer teams. We get out to the riverfront, and we see that the development community is booming. New Berkeley Riverfront coming in right next to the brand new Kansas City current soccer stadium that has solar panels and is built to this higher standard. And folks in our community are excited to see making KC livable for current residents and for the future, giving us the opportunity to make this decision. I'm glad that I can make this opportunity, this investment in my home for the next homeowner so they can make their choice. And I believe that all of us deserve that chance and would appreciate your support for our local control and our community voices. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of this witness? Doesn't seem to be. Thank you very much, sir. How old did you say your child was?
20 months last week, sir.
Yeah, you got a lot of things come from you more important than gas and electric. But okay, any other persons in opposition? Informational purposes only. Representative, any closing comments?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of points of clarification. I think the line was getting blurred between building codes and the energy efficiency code. All this bill would do is say that if you want to implement an energy efficiency code, well, I'll take you back to the 2009 IRC building code book. Chapter 11 is the energy efficiency code. And let's call the rest of the chapters structural, electrical, plumbing. All this bill does is say you can adopt a 2021 building code, but you have to amend the energy efficiency back to the 2009. That's all it does. It has nothing to do with health and safety or the structure itself. That's it. And as far as there's been a lot of talk of local control, and the senators, you can research this on your own, but talking to city council members, and even there's an article in the Kansas City Star, the city of Kansas City was enticed by the federal government with millions of dollars to implement these policies. They implemented the policies, but they never got a dime. So they were obviously willing to give up their local control for the federal government for millions of dollars. So I think that's relevant as well. And I haven't heard anything about the individual as far as what they want in their home. It's a lot about the collective, but not about the individual person that's buying the home. And it is about new residential. I think one of the witnesses, she wasn't sure, but it is about new residential. And everyone should have a choice as to what goes in that home, and they shouldn't have the government tell them what should go in there, because regulations will always increase the price. Government regulations always increase price. And I would also argue that if these energy efficiency standards, if they're truly beneficial, then the free market will adopt them. People will use them naturally. But there's a reason why they're being forced on the citizens of Kansas City. And if we don't stop that and get back to individual freedom and individuals what they want to purchase and what they want in their own homes, then it may spread across the state of Missouri. And my last point is that homes are not affordable anymore. And people do not care about energy efficiency. They care about a home for their family. That's their first priority, is buying a home for their family. And second, the average person stays in their home only 7 years. So they can argue that, well, it's going to pay off in the long run. People like my son, who can't afford a home and has a young family, they would never ask the question about energy efficiency. They just need a home, and that's all it's about. So with that, thank you for hearing my bill. I'd appreciate your consideration on it, and with that, I close.
Thank you, sir. About a motion to adjourn, so move. Second? Second. All those in favor, we're adjourned.